I'm super stoked for today's or tonight's guest. As soon as he came in for the sound check, he knew immediately what kind of song I was playing. So I'm like, fuck, Gavin also knows good music, man. This is crazy. This is epic. Shout out to everybody in the comments. What is good? It's your boy MJ up in the building. Top of the morning, like I was saying. And for everyone else on the international tip, thank you for joining in for today's Trap Talk session with MJ, man. Shout out to everyone in the comments, man. Fuck, really early birds, some early trappers up in the building, man. Shout out to everyone who's supporting Reptile Dysfunction, 1776 Exotics. You got Philip, my homie Oliver in the building. What up, Oliver? Mutations Lab. You know, there's a bunch of you guys up in the building, man. I appreciate it. So if you could please do me a favor, anybody who's new to the channel, if it's your first time chiming in on today's podcast, do me a solid. Give me a solid and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment. Leave me some sort of feedback. I'd really appreciate it. And then shout out to the sponsor, Cold Blooded Cafe. You know, if you're in America and you need the freshest and the bestest delivered to your doorstep, you can't beat Cold Blooded Cafe. So make sure you check them out, www.coldbloodedcafe.com. And then obviously, man, we got this new sponsor, Sim Containers. Shout out to John over at Sim Containers. Sim Containers are awesome when it comes to incubating eggs, especially chondro eggs, something that are really delicate and need a lot of humidity, man. You will not go wrong with this Sim Container egg box, okay? He has them in extra larges for like ball pythons and retics as well. A lot of methods that people use, which I'm also excited to talk to our guest about because I've learned so many methods from this guy, dude. He explains everything like as easy as possible, which I can't wait to get into. But before we get into all that, I want to make sure I cover all my ends, man. Make sure you guys check out Unfiltered Reptiles podcast. Really, really cool show we just did last night. I can't wait to release it tomorrow morning. But we're not stopping the Unfiltered Reptiles podcast by any means. We're still bringing amazing guests to the table. So make sure you go check them out. And then also follow them on Instagram as well. We got a page going on. So make sure you check out Unfiltered Reptiles podcast. And then obviously, man, you got to go ahead and follow the Snake Trap Sessions, man. Follow Snake Trap Sessions on Instagram. Follow my page, Exotics Cartel, on Instagram, and all that great stuff, okay? Now, if you guys don't know, if you guys didn't catch the Trap Talk with MJ with Jeremy over at Nerd, Trap Salute went to Nick over at Renown's Reptile. So shout out to my boy Nick, man. He's doing some major things, and that's my boy. And yeah, man, that's that. Also, guys, for all of you people who don't like to watch or listen to podcasts on YouTube, we are on all major platforms. So you could listen to Trap Talk sessions on Buzzsprout, you know, Spotify, Apple, all that great, all those platforms, all those major platforms for podcasts. You can catch all these sessions on there, as well as the Unfiltered Reptiles podcast. Okay, so for all my YouTube haters out there, we have options for you, so don't even worry about it. Yes, so my first international guest, man. Fuck, I'm super stoked. From across the pond, man, we got our boy right here, fucking Gavin from Balls to You. Gavin, what is up, big dog? Ooh.
How's it going, guys? Hello to everyone in the comments. Hope you're all well. Good evening, good morning, wherever they are all over the world.
Yeah, it was confusing for me as well because I kept saying today, and then I'm like, fuck, what if, you know, Gavin has a lot of people watching, then it's tonight. So I mean, wherever you're at, welcome in. This is what's up. I'm glad you guys are here. What's going on your end, Gavin? How's everything holding up? You know, with the whole COVID shit, what's your life been like with all this?
Wow, where do we start? So obviously the lockdown happened. I moved house right at the beginning of the lockdown, which was good. So yeah, it is what it is, and we've just got to readapt, you know. But breeding season is going very well. I think I'm up to about 30 clutches to date. I've got about another 13 females due to lay there or thereabouts. So yeah, it's going pretty well, MJ.
There you go, 30 clutches, man. And Gavin's been doing this for, like I said, when I first came into this hobby and I started stumbling across YouTube channels and shit like that, Gavin was for sure top three. It was Brian Barczyk, And then it was, I can't even remember who the other person was, but no offense to that person, but I do recall watching so many fucking of your videos, Gavin. You explained a lot of easy ways to set up an egg box, incubation and stuff like that. So the knowledge you have behind breeding ball pythons, right? Where did this all instill from? Where did the foundation get built for you?
For me, it was all about learning about the actual species itself and kind of specializing in that. I mean, you keep multiple species. For me, I just wanted to own in on one particular species and learn as much as I could.
Right.
And that's when, I was just absorbing information like a sponge. So, yeah, for me, I try and explain things as easy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a book person. I'm not one of these people where I could sit down and read a book. But for me, trying to make things easy, trying to explain things in a simple way for people, that's just the reason why I started doing it. And for me, that's what I love doing, just trying to help people and progress, and
right.
And the more I get messages from people saying that I've helped them, the more it sort of inspires me to do more. So yeah, it's all good.
So that's your drive, basically. The fact that people are doing something with the help that you're providing out there, that's like a huge push for you.
Yeah, definitely. And let's face it, if we can educate people and help people, that makes us responsible breeders. It then brings in responsible keeping or breeding, and it sort of helps our community instead of being thrown under a bus, with all the animal rights activists and all that sort of stuff. We're trying to show a good way, or we're trying to show responsibility.
Yeah, and you do a good job doing it. As far as the fan base you have in the UK, how much different is that from the fan base you have in the United States? Is it kind of like I don't know, where do you feel like you have the most support at?
I think it's 50-50. It's I get messages. The other day I had a message from a guy in China and what have you. I think the States and Canada, you guys embraced YouTube before the UK did.
Okay.
So I think it's 50-50. It's just that the UK are kind of a little bit behind on the YouTube side of things, where I think people in the States were really cottoning on, because I don't want to say I was the first UK YouTuber to do ball pythons, because I don't believe I was.
Yeah.
But there wasn't many UK people doing it. And whereas in the States and in Canada, there was quite a number of people doing it, which was fantastic to show people that we're pretty good at holding our own.
Yeah, totally, man. There's some definitely bangers out in the UK. My boy Dorset Pythons. You know who Dorset Pythons is, Christian?
Yeah, Christian's a good guy. Yeah. Yep. I have one of his snakes in my collection.
Awesome. It's just like it's. I think with the UK, you have shows like Ham's close to you, right? The Ham show and whatnot. Like you have a lot more. I mean, have you been to a lot of those European shows and stuff like that?
Yeah. So over in the UK, we only have one show 4 times a year, and it's at the same place, which is at Doncaster Racecourse, which is held by the IHS Federation. And then you've got over the pond, or over the little river, I suppose, we've got Ham and we've got Houghton. Ham's pretty good. I've been to Ham. I wanted to go to Houghton this year, but obviously with all the lockdown, that's not happened. But yeah, it's it's certainly obviously I've been to Tinley, I've been to the Canadian Reptile Show, and seen that there is a difference, not in a one's better than the other. It's just that it's just done differently, you know, in Europe, in the UK, and in Canada and America. But it's good to experience, you know, both types or all types.
What would you say the big difference is between the American shows and the European shows, like ham and stuff?
So with the American shows, you guys do very extravagant displays, very, you know, there's a lot of, you know, banners, and, you know, the actual booths are all built up real cool, awesome looking. And over in the UK or in Germany or in Europe, they're quite so, you know, we can only have a table or two tables, and you can't really display many banners, and it's very political sometimes. In the ham show, you're not allowed to film or take pictures and stuff like that. So, you know, it's crazy.
That's pretty wild, man. Like, can you imagine that? Like, I mean, we're over here bitching about having to wear masks all the time, which, yeah, it's kind of annoying, but imagine if, like, they fucking affect the shows where it limits how much advertisement you put up and how many, like, display snakes you put up. I mean, I hear if you whip out your phone and start taking pictures, they like hound you, and they like pull you aside and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot over in Germany, at Ham, I believe, and Houghton. Doncaster's not that bad here in the UK, but again, there's a lot of animal rights protesters who don't like what we do. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, they just don't think that snakes should be kept in plastic containers, you know. But they don't know the species that we work with, you know, and that's key. Is trying to educate not only keepers or breeders, but educate people who may come across our channel and say, well, why are they keeping snakes in, you know, plastic tubs and stuff like that? And he's trying to educate them. Well, you know, this species lives like this. You wouldn't keep a chondro or, you know, something like that in a small confined tub. You know, you'd have a nice display. So he's trying to educate people, whether they're into snakes or not. You know, just try and educate people that we are responsible and we're just doing things correctly. So I suppose the organisers of the shows, the less pictures are taken, the less that can fall in the hands of the wrong people, you know?
Oh, okay. So it's to limit anybody trying to make a fuss out of whatever the hell is being displayed, or is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what really bothers me though, Gavin, is that there's so many people out there who just refuse to want to learn. They'd rather not hear the truth behind the species.
Yeah.
And it's just because, nope, you're wrong. What you're doing is humane. It's terrible. That snake belongs in the wild, and all sorts of stuff. And they just shut down. You know, I think those are the ones that I need to have patience with. I don't have patience with people like that. It's ignorance. And I feel like they want to be ignorant. Like they choose to be angry and upset, and they refuse to listen. It's just, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, do you have anybody that you've kind of
sometimes
like,
that it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So exactly right. It's kind of like, you know, you can't. It's someone that they think they have all the answers. They think they're the experts. They think they know it all. They think, you know, because they've seen, you know, one video on a person slating this or slating that is reality, and not realizing that there's two sides to a story. And the one thing that I learned, or I've learned over the years, is to be very open-minded. You know, whether it be religion, you know, whatever, keep an open mind. If you still at the end of the conversation don't agree with that person, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you've got to understand, you've got to take into consideration that person. That person, like everyone who knows me, hopefully they know that the health of my animals come first. So if I really thought that keeping them in tubs was a bad health issue for these snakes, then I certainly wouldn't do it. So it's kind of, it's coming from the person. The person is the one that is giving the information and letting people know that this is how they prefer to live, because they feed and breed perfectly fine.
And then they thrive as far as like, age. I mean, I know people who have had ball pythons for 20 plus years. How is an animal miserable and humanely being kept if it's living for 20 plus years, eating, breeding? I mean, I feel like a happy snake is a breeding snake, for reals. If a snake's happy, it's doing well, it's going to breed and continuously.
Yeah.
It's going to do great for you. So take that, PETA.
Yeah, there's one thing. The one thing, like, I want to point out is there's a lot of zoos all over the world that do breeding programs with endangered species, and a lot of zoos struggle to produce captive-born animals, especially like snow leopards or whatever, pandas, whatever. And for me, I feel it's down to how they're being kept, and something that the zookeepers or zoology could learn from people like us who specialize in a particular species, breeding a particular species, that we dial in the ingredients, if you like. We dial in, all the conditions, the food, the age of the snake, when to do it, when not to do it. We dial it in. And I think there's a lot to be said about captive breeders like us, where we can, successfully breed animals and do it correctly. So I don't see what we do is a bad thing at all. It's a wonderful hobby or industry, depending on which way you look at it, that we're in, provided that we do it correctly and we're responsible. That's all we can do.
Right. Responsibility is definitely key. Leading by example is huge as well. And I think, like I said, one thing I have to give to this hobby is it taught me to want to share information. I came from a background of so many, I don't know if it was just the people I grew up with, but so many things where like I wasn't supposed to share my information, like my music. I was super fucking like private with my music, especially with DJing. I never shared anything. And like now my mind it's a different mindset in this game, because now when you share things, not only are you helping people, which help everybody in this hobby, but it builds your marketing, it builds your network and stuff. And it probably would have helped me in the music thing if I had that mindset, but I didn't learn it till I came here.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's kind of old school mentality, keeping all the secrets, what temperatures to breed the snakes at, when to breed, all that sort of stuff. But what I found was keeping those secrets hurt our hobby or hurt our community a lot more than helping people. And there was a lot of negativity, and it was all down to, you got to pay to play type scenario. If you don't pay me money, I'm not, if you don't buy a snake from me or pay me money, then I'm not going to give you the information. And that's where breeders start making mistakes, and the animal's health then becomes detrimental. So we've got to look at it, a bigger picture. This hobby is bigger than all of us. And the more we can do to help new people coming in and educate people, there's more than one ways to do things. But if we can help people and guide people, it's definitely doing more good than harm. That's for sure.
Yeah. So let's kind of discuss your relation, because you're homies with fucking all the big players in the United States. Everyone loves you. You know what I mean? When you came to visit, you saw, I mean, it's only been one time since you've been in the U.S. and went to reptile shows, right? That was the one and only time you've been here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of tell us your just so I can remember, because it's been a while, a little bit for me. Like, you know, my memory's not that great because of the pot, probably. But tell us like what your trip was like. Walk us through your trip, where you went, who you hung out with, and kind of go through that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it was all being organised. You know, speaking a lot to Miguel over Always Evolving Pythons, and we were going to link up and meet up at in Chicago. I just went out on a whim, sort of a thing. We were going to stop at this place, and I got to Chicago, and Miguel, typical Miguel, was like, "Yeah, bro, I'm not going to be there till tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Dude, I'm in Chicago. Like, you know, where do I go?" And he was like, "Oh, just check into a hotel. You'll be okay. We'll link up in the morning. It'll be cool." I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." So I got to a hotel. I linked in with a few of the guys that particular night. Linked in with Graham and a few others. And the next day, linked up with Joel, Nick, Brian Cusco, you know, quite a few other people, and it was pretty cool. I mean, it felt like, because we'd all spoke over the internet or saw each other over YouTube, it was kind of like we'd already knew each other. So it was very much like meeting up with old friends, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It was awesome. I remember the night I landed, me and Chris Graham, he come and picked me up from the hotel. We went over to a real TGI Fridays, which is awesome, and we had some food. It was phenomenal. But I really felt looked after by everyone that was there, and it was an absolutely epic time. I think I was there 3-4 days, and it was just everyone looked after me. Everyone just it was just phenomenal. You know, it was unreal. Really met a good group of people. It was just awesome. It was just awesome.
Yeah, man, because it finally all came together. You think about it, you built this relationships with all these guys, you know, from where you're at, and it's, you know, now you come over and you finally get to hang out with them in person, and fucking, I bet it was, you know, it was awesome for the people who met you too. You know, I'm pretty pissed I didn't get to meet you, but I can tell you what, no matter where you're at in America, next time you come, I'll be there to meet you for sure, 100%. Not missing that one.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it was so bizarre. It was kind of like, you know, I knew a lot of the old school breeders, and I knew them by name and by face.
Yeah.
And people like Brad Bower and Brock, and, you know, Jesse over at Freedom Breeder. But obviously they didn't know me. Obviously I knew them from the forums and all that sort of stuff. And then I'd be walking up to them, talking to them, and then you'd have someone come along and say, "It's Gav from Balls to You. Gav, how you doing? Da, da, da." And the other breeder would stop and be like, "Who's this English dude?" You know? And it was surreal. It was unreal, but it was absolutely awesome, though. You know, it was wicked. You know, it was good. Loads of great people, just made to feel very welcome, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it again. I was hoping to do it this year, but I don't think that's going to happen.
What is your plan as far as, like, I know it's really hard to plan it now, but I mean, has it been in the near future mentally, as far as you coming back to America and you know, going to a Tinley or an Arlington or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I plan to go this year and to come over this year. Hopefully, all being well, it can still happen. Still want to do Tinley, but we just don't know how the lockdown and you know, flying is going to create an issue. I don't know.
Yeah, day by day for sure. That's all we can do. shit.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
yeah. So Gavin, let's talk about, you said you got about 30 clutches right now, going for you. Fingers crossed,
Yeah.
everything goes well on that. What are you really excited about, man? I mean, you put a lot of time into your projects. I mean, I've seen stuff that you've been hyped about, 3 years ago coming in, and I'm just curious, what's going on? What are you really stoked about right now?
So this year will be the first year I'm hatching some Orange Dream clown combos, which I'm really looking forward to. I've also I just cut yesterday a clutch, which it's blown my mind. It's absolutely crazy. And you guys will have to stay tuned for the video on that one. But this is some Aussie level stuff, It was just some wow. So I'm really looking forward to showing that off for everyone. And just everything. Every time, I've got 2 incubators running at the moment. Every time I'm looking in the incubator, I'm looking at the pairing on the note, and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, well, I can't wait for that to hatch, and I'm wondering what we're going to get, and you're looking at the possibilities, and I'm just excited about everything, man. I'm just really buzzing about it all. There's not one clutch that I can't say I'm not excited for.
Fuck yeah. That's the kind of passion you need too, man. It's like, especially if you're going to be putting time and work into something, you need to have that passion carry throughout the next few years. Because without that, if you're working with stuff you're really not excited about, it kind of becomes more of a chore or a job versus you doing something that you love. So, put time and effort into what you're wanting to do with these fucking snakes, unless you just want to keep a snake as a pet, that's totally cool, but breeding wise, like really put some thought into it, man. I mean, I really, I took a lot of Gavin's, as far as your projects, Gavin, I kind of saw where you're going with combos and what you wanted to do. And it was super creative. And this is like, I mean, how long have you been putting YouTube out now? Remind me, like how long has it been for your channel?
Oh, it's got to be, I think 7 years, possibly something like that. 7, 8 years now.
2013.
Just putting the content out there. Yeah.
Wow.
Something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Who knows how old the videos were that I was looking at? Because I got, like I said, okay, 2017 is when I was like, okay, I want to buy snakes to breed. But 2016, wait, what did I just say? 2017 or 2016? Sorry, 2017 is when I actually started to buy snakes to want to breed. 2016 was when I was geeking out over bar checks, videos, Gavin's videos. I'm pretty sure Miguel was just starting at that time putting videos out. But even then, that's when I was grasping a lot of ideas on what I want to do. I put a lot of time into thinking about what I wanted to do with certain snakes that I wanted because of videos like Gavin's and because of videos like, fucking, Justin Kabelka and fucking Miguel and stuff like that. So just put time into it,
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one thing that people getting into the hobby, and we're probably all guilty of it. We all have this impulse buy reaction. We all impulse buy, and the one thing I try and say to people now is take your time, research the project, where you want to go with that project, and just take your time. It's not a race, it's a marathon.
100%.
It's just take your time, buy what you want to work with. Don't just think next year, think 5 years in front.
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, if you think about it, these aren't a snake. You don't want to get snakes thinking you could do something within a year with them, because I mean, everything takes time. You know what I mean? Adjustments. Snakes, like I said, if a snake is stressed out, in my opinion, I think if a snake's not liking its surroundings, snake's not feeling the fucking vibe of anything, you know what I mean? You don't have something dialed in. And if somehow does breed, you're probably not going to get healthy eggs. You're probably not going to get good looking eggs, you know what I mean? Or you're not going to get shit. So that's why I'm like, why do people like, I mean, I've had, especially with chondros, I'll have somebody tell me, I just bought this pair and they look like a young adults, but they're already like trying to breed it in like the, that coming winter. And I'm like, you just fucking got that snake. Why don't you just let it chill and have a few meals at least for a year and make sure it's happy with you? You know what I mean? Because snakes they don't always adjust as quick as some other snakes, or, even in certain areas, especially if you're going from like the West Coast to the East Coast, where like, dude, the person probably more likely isn't running ambient heating, and probably they just have a hot spot in their cage and everything else is cold. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I suppose we make it look easy to breed snakes, but in actual fact, there's a lot going on in the background where, we're making sure the temperatures are correct, the humidity is correct, the health of the snake is correct, the body weight, the age of the animal, all that sort of stuff. We can say we have a guideline, but sometimes that guideline you can go above or below it. But trying to educate people to take the time, you've just brought that snake, learn what the snake is all about, and go from there.
100%. Let's talk about some of the trial and errors that you've had to learn with ball pythons.
Oh boy.
Was there a big learning curve for you? Where there's like, because now it's easy. We always talk about how many platforms are out there. We could go meet somebody. Because Gavin, I remember I've asked you for stuff, as far as like tips and stuff, even through DMs, and you've responded fucking really, really nicely. So before all that was around, right? Talk about your learning curves, and then tell us about what you did to get research if you wanted to get answers to your questions.
Sure. I mean, I reached out to a few breeders, and I was on a lot of forums like the Bush League Breeders Club, ballpython.net, RFUK, and there was a lot of helpful people on those forums. But there was also a lot of people who was doing their old secretive, information thing, and you had to pay to play. At that time, I reached out to a few people who are new in the UK. They were reluctant to help. I also reached out to a few bigger people in the United States. Again, got the kind of same reaction that, they were a bit reluctant to help me. I had a lot of help from a good friend of mine called Phil. He sort of went under the radar. He was a home breeder. He was a great guy. Helped me out no end. Absolutely awesome. But the one guy that I did reach out to that helped me a lot, MJ, was Ralph Davis.
Ooh, Ralph.
And King Ralph.
Ralph, damn.
Yeah. Very, told you as it was. He told you if you didn't like it, tough. He told you how it was. And I remember the 1 year I was breeding, and I had a male ball python die on me, breeder male, and it really took me back. It surprised me, and this is a learning curve that you were talking about. So I was absolutely mortified. So I emailed Ralph, because Ralph was pretty responsive with me. He was emailing me back, and I said, "This has happened," and he said, "Yeah, it does." And then I realized that there was a whole lot of information behind the scenes that was going on that wasn't explained to me as a newbie getting in, that I didn't realize what could go wrong, or what would happen, or what could happen, etc., etc. So that learning curve for me hit hard. I didn't realize that males would die or could die. I've now learned that actually, it's a wild thing. In the wild, they will die. They'll copulate, and they will just die due to, that's how they're wired, pretty much. So in captivity, that doesn't really happen, which is great. But there was a lot of things that I realized that, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and I'm not afraid to make mistakes, and we learn by them. So it's been a long time since I've had a breeder male die breeding while breeding, because I think I've learned the signs of a male when he's getting to the point where, okay, enough's enough. So for me, every day is a learning curve. You're learning all the time, and I think that's a good mentality to have, that you don't know everything. You'll never know everything. And just stay humble, research, take in all the information, and it will certainly make you a better breeder. So Ralph Davis was the one guy in the States that helped me out quite a lot.
I'm gonna bring up a situation I have with one of my males, and I'm glad you're talking about this right now because I'm super curious. And I have a male who I gave him the name fucking Man of the Year 2019. He bred the amazing clutches I ever fucking everything I dreamed of. This guy fucking was sired. So we're going into this year, and he was still eating, pairing. Everything looked like he was doing it last year. Then all of a sudden he went off food, and I came in, and he's a GHI Mojave, and he's a dark snake. He's always been dark. And then I came in, and his body looked like he was a lesser, like it brightened up, and he went off food, and he stopped eating, he stopped pairing. He started like, his shits were weird. He didn't shit out. He stopped eating, but he was still shitting some really, really weird looking stuff, and it didn't look like, solid poo. So I knew something was up. I immediately stopped pairing him. I gave him a soak to make sure he was hydrated and stuff, and I could see his color kind of coming back. But have you had any kind of experience like that before? Like,
yeah. So, God, where do I start? So, with snakes, they can change color, and they will change color. Mm-hmm. And we see that a lot with the females when they glow before they go. They get flushed with the hormone, which helps them kind of changes their color, basically. Right. With males, what you can find is, I'm not sure what the correct terminology is, but they can go a little bit, I believe, anemic is the word that is used, and they kind of go a very pale color, very lifeless, and it can be a worrying time. The key is to learn what's happened. So if it's during breeding season, then obviously we could probably say he's stressed out with breeding. Right, take him off the breeding team, put him on the shelf. Let's give him good heat, good clean bed, nice clean water, and keep an eye on him. Offer him some food, and see if he takes it. Smaller prey items as opposed to a bigger prey item. Right. Keep the meals small. But yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that before, but nothing surprises me. I can walk in the snake room now, and I could see something I've never seen before, and that's just part and parcel of keeping or breeding, reptiles. But it's certainly, how did he do? Did he bounce back, or was he okay? Or
so he is, like I said, his color. Ever since I soaked him, and I'm sure he drank water, his color slowly turning back. He's not as bright. I was just gonna show you real quick what he looks like. So this is him. Let me just give you an idea real quick, this so you could see the where the fuck is it? I just had it. Hold on. 1 second. Sorry, guys. No, I'm fucking. Fuck, I got so many pictures. This is ridiculous. Give me 1 second. I'm almost there. Anyways, fuck this. I can't find it. I'm going to show you what he looks like now. But he's not this snake. This is weird. He's not. Here he is.
Yeah.
He's like white. He's like white on the sides. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is that? Like, and he's my GHI Mojave. He produced super GHIs that were all black last year. So anyways, I gave him a soak, and now he's getting a lot darker. Like a lot of that white, like that shiny gray on the side is gone. But his head's still really, really light. He's not eating, but you know what? I'm not giving him smaller meals like you said. I'm giving him what he's been eating, period. So I think, and dude, this guy has never missed a meal. He's just always fucking on top of his shit. So
he looks healthy, and I'll point out to something else. Matt Lear, who founded the GHI, he noticed that on an evening or on a night time, a lot of his GHIs were changing colour.
Yeah.
And I notice during breeding season, especially, that the females will almost go like the male you've just showed me there. You know, I've got a real dark female, just straightforward GHI, and when she goes into breeding mode, especially on an evening, she goes that very colour. She looks ghostly like that.
Look,
you know, it's just
that was him a month before he whatever the fuck happened to him.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, listen, as long as he's feeding and he seems to be okay. And the thing is, with these snakes, you know, what people have also got to realise is the temperatures are also key. So we have to keep the temperatures correct for them to digest their food.
Right.
As long as food's going in and it's coming out, you know, it's sometimes a little bit like us, you know. Sometimes we can have some dodgy food and our shit's a different colour, or it looks different, or it's not hot solid. Do you know what I'm saying?
We're not coming out right.
Exactly. So sometimes, you know, it's kind of just, you know, taking a look at things, you know, reassessing your setup, make sure he's okay, the temperature's correct. Because a lot of people, you know, they have a problem, and then I say to them, "Well, just check your temperature. What's your hotspot?" And they go and they check the hotspot, and then they come back and say, "Oh, my heat mat stopped working, or the heat tape has stopped working." And they're that reliant on their equipment working that they don't realise that the hotspot stopped working. They correct the hotspot, and sure enough, the snake goes okay, and it starts eating, and etc. etc. So it's you know, it's kind of just make sure everything's all okay, make sure everything's correct. A lot of people think they buy rodents from a certain place and then they go and buy them from somewhere else. It's the same thing, and it's not always the case. You know, you've got to buy quality rodents for your animals, which I know you are, because you use cold-blooded cafe. Sure. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, sometimes that's a factor. You know, they buy rodents from a different place and the snake's not interested.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it really, because look, I recently got my whole collection. I would say 98% of my collection, which is 100% now, but at that time, 98% of my collection, minus 2 fucking snakes. I shit you not. When I went and offered them a frozen thawed rat, they all fucking took. And then I had 2 ones that, like, you know, they didn't want it, but the second time around they took it. You know what I mean? I don't know if that was just all luck because how bomb the quality is over at Cold Blooded Cafe, but I will say this. I recently came across a YouTube video and somebody was saying that how nobody should feed their snakes frozen thawed, or frozen thaweds are just a terrible route to go. And, you know, and basically all because of a few reasons. They're too time consuming, which I agree. If you have anything more than 20 snakes, it is time consuming for sure. If you need to shake it on the go, then it is time consuming. I'll say that much. But then they also said that you cannot, after you unthaw it, if a snake doesn't want it, it's a waste. And I was like, that's not true. I was like, I've refrozen. I've heard a rule of 2. If you know, especially if the animal is put down the correct way and frozen properly, and there was no time lapse in between getting it frozen, you know, there's a rule of 2 where you could unthaw and rethaw an animal and you're fine. I've never done 2 days. I've done 1 day. And I've mentioned, like, hey man, you could actually rethaw an animal or refreeze an animal at least twice. And I guess the pushback on that was because how bad the smell is after you unthaw and rethaw it. I've never had that issue. And again, I don't know if it's just the quality over at Cold Blooded Cafe. I don't know, but I've never had that issue. Anytime a snake didn't need a rat, I would just refreeze it.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, the simple way around that is to feed your collection over 2 or 3 nights. So instead of doing all your collection at once,
spread it out,
break it down. That way you're not going to get any waste. And that's one thing that I learned early on, that I was defrosting like 100 rats, and I was like, only 80 would eat, and then I'd have 20 go to waste, and I was like, well, this is nuts. So then obviously, I took it upon myself to break up the collection and do it a rack a night or 2 racks a night, whatever you want to do. That way you're not going to get waste. Me personally, I never refreeze rodents because they always take, or I've always got, I always offer them other snakes, so I don't have that chance to do that. But split your collection up, and in the wild, they don't eat frozen thawed. They eat live rats, live rodents. But some people can't handle feeding cute little rats or African soft-furred rats or mice to snakes. And
oh my God,
I understand. I understand. I understand.
Dude, I was producing the coolest looking fucking rats, man. And obviously, dude, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I do put my heart aside. Like, my heart's pretty fucking cold when it comes to animal going out. Like, if animal dies, like, it's the name of the game. I'm able to live it up. Now, don't get me wrong. There's certain snakes, if they go, they're part of my pioneer snakes. I'll probably be sad. But at the end of the day, like, these are animals. You can't beat yourself up too bad if something happens. Just make sure you don't repeat the mistake, yada, yada, yada. So, but fuck, what was I going to go? I was going to go with somewhere with that. What were you just talking about?
Rodents. Breeding rodents.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, yeah, okay.
Talking about breeding rodents.
So, but that being said, man, I was fucking, these AFSFs and like these cute little rat pups, man. Like, I just fucking got so sick of just feeding them off. Like, I much rather just get these things just like already done with, you know what I mean? Because I don't know, like, but at the same time, like, I have certain snakes, like, I feel like, it's to whatever helps you best. If you thaw over live, I just know there's a lot of risk at take when you're feeding live fucking rats. People don't understand how bad of a damage a rat could do to a snake. And especially if you don't go back and check. Now, I see a lot of people just toss rats in there and they keep it moving. I've had a snake get bit by a rat, and the fucking rat infected the snake so bad his whole back became had bubbles on it. I had to take it to the vet. Like, dude, do you really want to fucking go through that? Like, especially a small time keeper who just doesn't have much money to spend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that could put you in a position where everything's all fucked. You know what I mean? Especially if you want to buy more stuff or anything like that. Like, vet bills will destroy a lot of dreams. Like, it will fucking hold back a lot of stuff you're trying to do. So, I hope if you are feeding live, you're doing it smart. You're keeping an eye on that rat, because if you talk about time consuming, there's been times where the snake grabbed the rat and the rat's like literally got the hold of the snake at a certain place, and I have to sit there with tongs and wait for the fucking rat to die. And I'm like pushing I'm pushing the mouth up like this, and I just sit there like this. Like, I mean,
don't get me wrong. Most of my collection is frozen thawed. That's how they feed. But let's be realistically, some of them do eat live. So I do have to feed live. And you're right. When the snake strikes and you see that rodent latch onto the snake's neck, you do have to put the tongs in there and make sure that the teeth aren't, penetrating the skin of the snake. You just keep it away. And it is time consuming. And not only that, if you're like, for example, with my hatchlings, the first meal that the hatchlings have is a live hopper, a live African soft-furred hopper. And what I tend to do is I tend to put the hopper in, and then I go back and check it like half an hour later. But I'm also looking at the snake and seeing what the snake is doing, or seeing whether the snake is active or if it's interested in food. But I have seen pictures of snakes being half eaten alive by the rodents, and that's reality. That's reality, because
be ready for that.
The rodent is backed into a corner, and it's a fight or flight situation. And that rodent's got some good claws and some good teeth, and the snake, all he's going to do is strike. And if the snake doesn't strike it and kill it, unfortunately, the rodent is going to defend itself.
And
So for me,
a lot of people don't. Sorry, let me just cut you off, Gavin. But a lot of people don't share that horror story when a rat fucking kills a snake because they don't want to share that. You know what I mean? Like, and to think about it, that's a terrible thing to share. But but just understand that's fucking happened to so many people. And look, it could have happened to me, dude. I honestly did not catch that rat bite until like a week after she already ate it. But for some reason, that rat was able to just do work on her and fuck her up. And I noticed when it was already infected and the shit was already hitting the fan. So after that, I'm like, dude, never again. Like, because you need to understand, there's some ball pythons that rap like fucking retards, and they just get the tail, and like the rat has the full front of the body to just like get whatever it wants. You know what I mean? So, just you know what I mean. It's people say, oh, feed live, and that's cool, but make sure you feed live smart. Make sure you know what you're doing when you're feeding live. You know what I mean? And make sure you're at least going back, make sure that it was a good strike, and you don't have to worry about fucking getting in there and prowling the fucking rat's mouth open. So,
the one thing,
go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing that we both agree on is that, and this is going back to those people who think their way is the right way. We can both sit here and go, there's two ways to feed. There's frozen and there's live. Neither of them are wrong. Neither of them are right. It's just whatever suits you and your circumstance. But with both, there is good and bad points. There's defrosting the rodents. There's, offering the snake the frozen rodent with, I dip the head in boiling hot water, and then I offer it to the snake. There's all that going. But then with live, you've got to get the live in. If you don't breed it yourself, you've then got to put it in the tub, make sure that it gets eaten. Otherwise, it's going to start eating away at the tub, or creating issues. And there's pros and cons for both. At the end of the day, we have to remind ourselves. For me, I'm a reptile keeper. I'm a snake breeder. My snakes have to come first. So if my snake is a live feeder and that's what it takes, that's what it's got to have. I'd rather the health of the snake be better than me have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have animal rights jumping on me just because one of my snakes eats live.
Yeah, 100%. And people also need to realize that you don't need to make it so fucking difficult to thaw out a rat, okay? And if you're trying to switch a snake from live to frozen thawed, and the first thing you offer it when you go to frozen thawed is a soggy, wet piece of shit, you think that snake is going to want to eat that wet, soggy piece of shit? No, I mean, more likely, not right away, but you need to, like, I just feel like people fucking overthink the thawing system, where all I do is I take out a frozen fucking rat, I put it out, I wait 24 hours for it to thaw out, then I put it on a heat pad for 30 minutes, 15 minutes each side to make sure the fur is dry and it feels like a real animal that's maybe still alive. And that's the best option. But I see a lot of people that just make it difficult, and they expect the snake to go from a live rat, that's dry, to getting something that's dunked in water and getting like thrown into their face, sprinkled. You know what I mean? I don't know. But
yeah, definitely. I totally. You've got to. There's it's definitely it's each to their own at the end of the day. If people want to feed live, that's up to them. And the one thing I don't like, and the one thing that does get my back up, is when people say that's wrong and this is right when it clearly works. So let's say feeding my snakes frozen is wrong and it's not healthy for the snake, yet all my snakes thrive, do very well. I think you're very naive if you think there is only one way to do things.
And I mean, for the most part in this hobby, no, there's not one way to do. I mean, there's so many different variables. There's so many different things that you can try. It's just not everything works the same way for different, for the same people. Like, you know what I mean? Demographically is a huge thing. You know what I mean? If somebody's in a different fucking demographic than you, and they're running heat their way. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you if you're in California or if you're in a different place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's super. Like, you guys need to take that in consideration, because I have people hit me up asking for advice, and I just get, I'm working on my patience and still putting the time out there to help people, but it's like their questions are always about like heating and stuff, and I'm like, well, fuck, I don't know where you live. You could be in India. You could be, in fucking New Hampshire. You could be there's so many things, and I don't know, but a lot of people they're just curious. You know what I mean? They just want to know. So my biggest thing for those people is do research in your demographic area. Find out how cold your area is. Find out what the heat needs to be for an animal to thrive, ambient wise, and everything else. But you can't it's hard to ask somebody advice and ask what they're doing if they're in a completely different demographic than you.
Yeah, and that's where we go back to the baseline. There's a baseline of certain figures or certain settings that we follow, but then that can alter depending on where you are in the world. So I say to a lot of people, if I know where they live, or if I know the area, especially if it's in another country and I know a breeder in that country, I'll tell that person to speak to that breeder, because that breeder is already in your country. That person, that breeder is already having success. So maybe just hit them up a message, see what they say, and see if they can help you dial in your collection a little bit better. But going back to the rodent thing, I've just saw a quick message on there from Apex Mutation Pythons. Also made a good point that we don't have to feed these animals a large prey item, and I've said this before. I think sometimes as well we've been feeding them too big of a meal, because in the wild they wouldn't run past, if a little African soft-furred rat ran past them, they wouldn't go, oh no, you're too small, I'm not going to eat you. They're going to take that rodent. If a big one ran past and it was too big, they'd probably go, yeah, that's a little bit too big for me to take. But 9 times out of 10 in the wild, provided it was the right size, they don't care if it's a little bit smaller than what they used to, they will still take that priority. So sometimes, try not to feed big meals to your snakes. Try and do a little period where maybe a smaller prey item, because it will certainly help, and it certainly won't hurt them.
I think also the risk you take when you want to slam them with food, they get to the point where they're just like, yo, I don't want to eat. You know what I mean? They get to the point where it's like you stop the process by forcing so much damn food, especially in the beginning as juveniles and stuff like that. You could get them going as babies and stuff, but it's just all about consistency. You know what I mean? Just consistent, you know what I mean, is key. And as long as they're eating it and shitting it out, then and they keep eating, then everything they're getting, and then they're gonna grow. So
yeah, definitely, and that's another thing. He's kind of make people aware that just because they're having a big meal doesn't mean that they're going to grow any quicker. And I prove this by having I feed African soft-furred rats, which are normally an adult African soft-furred rat is probably about that big. Mm-hmm. Your domestic rat is probably about that big. Yeah. Yep. But my African soft-furred rats, being that big, they have the same amount of protein level as a normal rat, let's say, of 100 grams. So an African soft-furred rat is around about 50 grams, let's say, that you would feed your snake. That's the equivalent of 100-gram domestic rat. So when you weigh it up, it's only a smaller meal. And a lot of people look at it, and I get a lot of people say, well, do you feed your snake 2 of those African soft-furred rats? No.
You don't need to.
Why? Yeah. Don't need to, because the protein level, and it proves it because they shit less, they absorb, and we know they shit less because they absorb more from it. Mm-hmm. You give, if you give one of my snakes a normal rat, it will be in and out of its body pretty quick, whereas an African soft-furred rat, pretty rarely, does it go in and out. It sort of they take it, they absorb all the nutrients, and then obviously they pass out what's left. And I can tell you now, it's not very big compared to a normal rat after they've shit out a normal rat. So they've got to be absorbing it, So It's learning. Everything's, you learn and you pay attention and you see what works, what doesn't work. Some people can't get African soft-furred rats in their state wherever they are. And I appreciate that.
I had a colony of them. They're legal in California, but I had a colony. I had a colony of them. I had 6 colonies of them. And then it just, I got really over just keeping. See, my biggest thing, which I learned so many lessons from this, and I preach this to everyone: don't do what I did. But I had a small area, like when it's kind of like in the washroom of the snake trap where I bred my rats and stuff. But they had access to the trap, so if one got out, they had fucking access to my whole trap. And goddamn, they just tore shit up sometimes. You know what I mean? And I got so sick of it because my only true headaches that I was getting was because of these fucking rodents. So, and I just had no other place to put them. My wife didn't want them anywhere near the house, like as far as outside. They wouldn't do good just being outside. So I honestly, I didn't care. I cut my losses. I do miss keeping those little motherfuckers because they were cool. But man, my ball pythons loved those, dude. They were, and especially my hatchlings, dude. I mean, I still went. No, I actually, damn. I'm just realizing this will be my first year offering my hatchlings a rat pup or a rat pink, I guess you could say. Yeah. They've been smashing on the ASFs, and I've gone like I went 70 for 70 last year, something crazy. It was nuts on first rounds. I never had anybody not take a rat on my knock on wood shit. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a good example that you give as far as people out there who think fucking feeding these snakes double the amount that these should take is going to get them quicker to where they need. It's not really what's happening. You know what I mean?
And this is why ball pythons, you won't really get an obese ball python. Stuff like retics, anacondas, boas, berms, they'll just eat, and they will eat and eat and eat and eat, and they will get overweight. With ball pythons, like you said, they'll get to a certain point and they'll just stop, and they'll be like, no, I don't want no more food, I'm okay. And that's because I believe that in the wild, they just take what they need to survive, and they're very good at, because they're not a hunter as such, so they'll lay in wait for a rodent to run past, unlike a retic where it would go hunting for food. Right. That they take what they're very good at absorbing the food, let's say, and taking as much as nutrients as possible from that rodent. Whereas probably something like a retic, it just turns to, if you're feeding them too much, and it just turns to an obese snake. And that's where power feeding can get mixed up with certain species. A ball python will just stop. I can tell you, I've got snakes that will feed every day if you let them, but I'll guarantee you they will stop feeding if you were feeding them every day. They'd just be like, no, I'm done.
Yeah. Because I talked to Kevin McCurley from Nerd, and on the other channel, the Unfiltered Reptiles podcast, and he had a really good point as far as he was bringing nutrition up, like nutritional facts for humans, and how much it relates to reptiles. Like it's still like digestive system is a digestive system, right? So yes, these snakes will fucking eat, but there's going to get to the point where that snake's wall will hit, and the way these snakes work, they could, they could go a year without eating. Like that's that's nuts. So the reason why they're able to eat that much is because they're probably prepping to go off food for a long, long, long time. So you got to understand, like, what's the point of that? You don't want this snake to go off food ever. I mean, unless it's pregnant.
Yeah. But so let's take into consideration, like you'll see a lot of nature programs on the anaconda, the green anaconda, and you'll see, devouring this large, prey item. And the narrator of the show will say, this animal now will not eat now for another year. And he's probably right, because that animal has just consumed such a massive meal because of it being a python, and it can consume such a big meal. Yeah. That it will now digest that food, and it will go off hunting as and when it's ready for another prey item. But that won't be in 7 days' time. That won't be in 2 weeks or even a month's time. That prey item, being such a big item, has now, it will now keep that animal, full and healthy until it's ready to go and find some more. Ball pythons, on the other hand, they live underground in rodent burrows or in termite mounds. So, and again, like I said, there's going to be little mice running past. They're going to take that prey item, and they are only used to very small prey items.
Yeah.
So when we talk about snakes, we need to separate them into species and say, well, this species eats differently, to this species. And that's only just what I've learned from keeping ball pythons, that I know that they're not interested in big prey items. You give them a smaller prey item, they'll smash it all day long.
Yeah, 100%. That's what they're known for. I mean, that's why people take advantage of the whole pounding, the whole pounding technique as far as like power feeding and shit,
Yeah.
Which, gotta be careful with it. 100%. So we talked a little bit about your learning curves, stuff that you had to get dialed in, incubation, man. I learned my basic straight up ways from your YouTube channel on how to set up incubation. You still run it at 90 inside the actual incubator, right?
Yeah, so at the moment, the incubator here, that's the second incubator that I've built. That's up and running now. As you can see, it's virtually full. Both incubators are set at 90. Set at 91. And inside the incubator itself is running at 90. In the tub, it's running around about 88, 89. And I find the reason why I'm doing this is almost, I don't want to say the word experiment, but the last 2 years, I've raised the temperature slightly, not to speed up the egg process or the hatching process,
right?
But I'm collecting some data which I'll just briefly go over, because I don't want people to start doing this until I've got all the data. But I was contacted about 3 or 4 years ago by a couple of breeders saying that they noticed when they incubated higher that they would get more females in the clutch. So as we know, stuff like geckos and, you can incubate them at certain temperatures to determine the sex, all that sort of stuff. But it's never been really documented with ball pythons. And the last 3 years, I've kept it at a certain temperature, and I've been just taking down the data, and I'm slowly working out whether or not there is some sort of fact in it, or whether it's just down to the odd gods that these breeders have just hit a lot of females within their clutches. So at the moment, that's how I incubate. And like I say to people, if you incubate the way I incubate, it's pretty fail safe. It's idiot proof. I have no issues with the way I do it at all. And, for me, it's all about simplicity, keeping it simple. Because I want my eggs to hatch. I want them to be healthy. I'm not going to jeopardize that whatsoever. So for me, the way I incubate it is those temperatures. But you've got to understand, with those temperatures come my process. So the way I set up the egg box, the little holes in the end, and putting the vermiculite and the water in, and those temperatures match that incubation method. So you've got to make sure that you kind of, whoever method you follow, just try and make sure that you follow it to their book, and how they do it.
All right, man, I'm burning up inside because I can't wait to start speaking, because I'm fucking so excited to speak on this right now. And this is why people need to fucking realize, he's telling you right now, don't go. This is a method he's experimenting with. Okay. This is something that he's doing. I'm super excited to speak on this because I got my method from Gavin. I set inside the incubator with the probe 90 degrees. That's where I set my shit. And I got that from Gavin. I've come to realize that inside my egg box, because in your video you said I set it at 80. I don't know. You said I set the incubator temps at 90, and then you said whatever it is in the egg box, it is at the egg box. All it matters is that you set the incubator at 90. That's exactly what I did. And then I would check the temps, and I was more in the 87, 88. I wasn't in the 89, 88, 89. Okay. Dude, I got hardly any males last year. I had a clutch that went 10 for 10, all females.
Yeah. And stuff like this is interesting because
crazy.
You know, we're learning all the time, MJ. So, you know, we've learned a lot over the years with the facts behind breeding and, let's say, mutations, like, you know, certain genes not being able to reproduce. Yeah. So there's a lot of things. I mean, we've only been really breeding ball pythons really for 25 years. Yeah, there or thereabouts. So if you think about it, we've still got a hell of a long way to go.
Crazy.
And a lot of people will blame incubation methods on situations when really it could have been a clutch issue. So there could have been an embryo issue and not an incubation issue. So for me, my incubators, the stats, and again, when people say, oh, I've set my stat at 90 degrees, but the hot spot within the snake tub is only 82. Well, yeah, because you've just set the stats. You know, what you're looking for is setting the heat spot, the hot spot in the actual tub. When we talk about incubation, and we're talking about, like I said, a lot of people will put little thermostats, thermostat, like these little things.
The actual probe, or
yeah, these little things actually on top of their egg box. Yeah, and what they'll have 4 or 5 of these for their clutches. Yeah, can you see what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And what they'll do is one will read 86, and then the other one in the other box will read 88, and they'll panic. They'll be like, wow, what and they'll start pulling the egg boxes out. They'll start messing with things halfway through incubation, and that's when you are going to get issues. My advice to people is set it up, set your incubator up, find out the method that you feel comfortable with, and you see exactly how you go. And don't worry about, you know, I have one thermostat running my incubators, and then I have a thermometer, just one thermometer in each incubator, which then tells me, so it kind of confirms where I'm at. You know, it's kind of I don't have to worry about what's inside the egg box, because I know inside the incubator is around about 90 degrees.
Yep.
I now know within the egg box it's going to be around about, like you said, between 87 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfectly fine. Eggs hatch really healthy. Perfect. No issues.
Super. They hatch solid as fuck, and I couldn't believe it. Now I'm also going to clarify something as well. I reached out to make sure that 87 is still like in the cool zone. I mean, not cool zone, but obviously in the safe zone. And you know, it really is. You know, it's not something that's going to damage the egg. And I told myself, well, you know what? Because, you know, I was also coached a lot 89, 90. You know, 89, 90. You know what I mean? And I was thinking, wow, is that 89, 90 inside the egg box? And then I saw your video. You're like, I put the inside the incubator, you know, what's inside is 90, keep that whole area 90, and then whatever's in the egg box, you're safe. So I was like, well, you know, I had that to consider as well, and I went with that route. And it, you know, like I said, it was it works great, man. I had a really successful year last year. I'm praying it goes that way again this year, but I'm not changing anything, you know. And keep in mind, guys, whatever works for you, don't fucking change it. Don't be that guy to fucking try to fix something that's not broken. That's where a lot of you guys kind of go wrong. And you know, stick to what works.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, apex mutation pythons just going off. Did he say warmer temperatures might lead to more females? Yeah, basically I was told by a few breeders, they contacted me saying, hey Gav, we've noticed we're running these temperatures slightly warmer and we're hitting more females, considerably more females. So I used to set my incubator inside the incubator around about 89, 88. So I decided for the first year that I would do it slightly higher and I would monitor what was going on. All the eggs hatched fine, no kinks, no issues whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
What I did notice was I did get more females. I wouldn't say everyone in the clutch was a female, but I did get more females. Some of the clutches, there were no females and there were males. So at the moment, the data that I'm collecting is showing that I am getting a 70% more female ratio than I am a male ratio. And again, this is something that can't be done over one breeding season or two. You need years of data to put it forward. And not only that now, so I've got the data from when I started raising the temperature, but I've also got the data before I raised the temperature. So I've got something to compare the two. I'm not advising everyone to do this, okay?
Listen to that.
Let me do the hard work and let me put the information out there to help you. If you incubate the way I incubate, that's fine. Like I said, I can guarantee you'll have you'll have great success with the eggs. They'll hatch perfectly fine, provided that the embryos are all okay, provided you did the groundwork prior to the female laying the eggs, which was feeding the female responsibly, doing all that sort of stuff. There's a chain to it, you can't just go and stick your eggs in a box and stick it at 90 and expect them to be A-okay. There's a process. But I am seeing an increase in females, but we've still got to collect more data. We've still got to do more testing, and we shall see. Time will tell.
Day by day.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've hatched this year. Just looking at the hatchling rack, I have got I'd say 70% so far that I've hatched more females than I have males. Nice.
So what's your clutch count currently right now in the incubator?
Well, I've got 30 clutches to date. In the incubators, I've got I'm on clutch 5, so I've got 25 clutches in the incubators at the moment. And a lot of people have asked me the question why I don't have a walk-in incubator. And my simple answer to that is if you put all your eggs in one basket and that basket breaks, you've lost all those eggs.
Yeah, you're fucked.
So one thing I learned from Ben Rennick, God rest his soul, back in the day was, and he was very, very right in what he said, he had multiple incubators. So that way, if one incubator went down, he would not lose his whole project, his whole collection, everything. He would only lose whatever was in that incubator. So I've never been a fan of a walk-in incubator, even though they look awesome and they're amazing. I would just rather have that fail-safe. And not only that, if one incubator does fail, I've still got the second one where I can start moving them over, putting them in there. It's kind of that fail to prepare to fail, which this is a new addition, by the way. I never anticipated getting so many clutches at once. And that's what, again, you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. That's exactly what I did. But luckily, a good friend of mine came through with a new drinks cooler, which I was able to convert into an incubator, which you can see running, and you can already see it's pretty full. So my advice to anyone out there, fail to prepare to fail. And we still make mistakes,
No, mistakes never stop. That's what's like. Well, you just got to limit repeating them. You don't want to repeat mistakes, because there's so many mistakes you're going to make. They're just going to come, and it's, there's just certain things you just can't really beat yourself up over. You just got to make sure you do everything you can to not fucking repeat it.
Yeah. And that's why, like I said, at the end of the day, there's so many ways to do things, but just make sure it works and it works for you. You haven't got to follow my method. You haven't got to follow anyone's method. But just make sure that it works for you, because we're all in different circumstances.
Yeah, 100%. let's talk about your method as far as pairing goes. Like, is there a certain time of year where? Well, actually, hold on. Let's rewind that because I have another question for you. You're females, right? You mean you have seasoned females. You have females that get back on food what the time they need to. They get back to the weight they need to, and they're able to breed again, right? So,
Yeah.
At what point do you look at a female after it's been locking and everything's been going accordingly, and you're like, she's not going to go this year?
So for me, before I had the ultrasound, I would, and this is where we go back to knowing your animals, learning your animals, how they act, how they behave. So when you've got a female that's smashing food, then all of a sudden she goes off food, and she's not growing, or she's not developing, or she doesn't look like she's building. Pretty much, she's not going to go. She's gone off food. She's reabsorbing those follicles, and that's why she's gone off food. She's taking all the nutrients, so she's grown those follicles up to a certain point, and for some reason she's not happy. Yeah, something's not right. So then she starts to reabsorb those follicles. That's the period when she'll stop feeding, and that's the period when she will start to use the nutrients from those follicle development to feed her body back, what she needs. Once she's then sort of used up all that follicle growth that she built up, she will then obviously start to go back on food and start eating. But 9 times out of 10, it's literally just looking at them, gauging them, gauging how they are, how they're acting. Knowing your females is key. I can tell you about every single female in my collection because I know how they feed. I know exactly. It's so important that people forget to learn their animals. So important.
Yeah, but what's also crazy is females also will pound the shit out of food and then go off before they ovulate.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So again, you're looking at the female and you're gauging, like normally around about 25 millimeters is when they go off food. 25 to 30 millimeters is when they go off food. And pretty much you can see, a female is nice and plump, towards the back end, you can just see, the body tone and condition of the snake is different. Yeah, and this is where MJ, you can probably, not just ball pythons, but you can walk in your room, look at your snake in any particular breed or species, whatever, whichever at the time, you can know something is not right with that snake. It's acting different, and that's when, breeders and keepers, people will segregate, well, I'm a keeper and I'm a breeder. In actual fact, you're kind of wanting to, because you're keeping the animal. You know what they're looking, you know what they look like, you know where they're acting. And if they're acting different, there's an issue, or there's something going on, whether that be going on to ovulation or whether that be, reabsorbing. So you just got to monitor your snakes and keep an eye over the next few weeks and see how they go.
Or just buy a freaking ultrasound. Fucking that way you could really find out what the hell's going on with your snakes.
Yeah.
I mean,
this season, I brought an ultrasound, which is the first time I've ever used one, and I had a breeding recipe, and now with that ultrasound, now I'll be dialing that breeding recipe even in. So, and this is another thing: ultrasounds won't guarantee you success. Buying the most expensive snakes and the best equipment in the world will not guarantee you success. Nope. You've got to put the work in.
Yep, and the work is like what Gavin's saying, knowing the animal, spending the time to fucking study them and understand when things are going a different direction than normal.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that matters.
It's key.
It's super key. Yeah, man, it's because it's crazy, man. I had one female who, when the first year I attempted, breeding her, she had locks, and this is when I thought, oh man, lock a female as much as you can, and that's definitely not the way to go. You don't fucking do that at all whatsoever. There's knowing your animal, and then knowing the time, watching their body and whatnot is when you know exactly when to pair that animal. But back to what I was saying is The first year I tried breeding this animal, she didn't do anything. She looked big. She looked humongous. I think there was times I thought there was an ovulation, but there was no ovulation. She didn't go. And then January, and then she didn't eat. She went off food for about, I think, a good month. She didn't eat. And then she picked it back up and started slamming food. I started pairing her in October. January came along, and she fucking laid a clutch. She laid 10 beautiful eggs. And this is the girl I went 10 for 10 on females on. It was nuts. But she laid 10 beautiful eggs. Went back on food pretty quick. Back to routine. Paired her again in October. Here came January. Nothing. Now we're in May. Nothing. She just finally went off food. Like 2 weeks ago. But she fucking looks big. She looks huge. I just never saw an ovulation. Anytime I tried pairing her, nothing. Like I just saw that there was some sort of, the chemistry was just off on whatever. So I was like, okay, there's something. I noticed something right there, right? But at this point, I'm just came to realize, like, if something would have happened, it would have happened by now, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, this is the other thing. So there's so many factors in breeding snakes or breeding ball pythons in particular. We can set the conditions and get everything sort of right. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to start breeding in October, let's say, and we're going to do this. I'm going to introduce the male once a month, and they're going to lock. And after 3 or 4 months, we're going to get a clutch of eggs. What you will get, or what is fact, is that that female may not be at that cycle point when you are introducing that male. So in actual fact, you're putting that male in, and yes, they're locking, but nothing's going to happen because she's not ready. She's not got the follicle growth or even interested in breeding. She's just going with the flow. Sometimes, and this is something else that I've learned over the years, which a lot of people don't talk about in ball pythons, is compatibility. Compatibility is something that a lot of breeders will have 2 of the same male to run through multiple females. So if one male isn't compatible with that female, the thought process is the second female or the backup male will be compatible. And compatibility is key. And here's a prime example. I can put a male in with a female and nothing happens. Take him out, put him away, put the same male in with another female, and they'll lock.
Yep, I thought that. Mm-hmm.
It's compatibility. And sometimes we can buy these snakes, and a male and a female, we're going to put them together and make the most amazing combination in the world. But what we have got to factor in is that there may be a compatibility issue. There may be the female's not ready. The male stops feeding, goes off food. There's so many things we have to take into consideration. And compatibility is one of those things. And I brought, and I've spoke about this on some of my videos, I brought a really expensive breeder male from Aussie just to help my projects move forward.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't breed for me at all. Would not breed to the females that I wanted him to breed to. Wouldn't breed. And I was like, man, this can't be happening. But it is what it is. They're animals. We can't force them. So I put him in with a female that I wasn't, that bothered. I had nothing for her, let's say. And I thought, you know what, let's just give him one last try. And sure enough, he locked. Now, after that lock, any female then that I put him to or I wanted him to go to, he bred. So there's also the other factor that maybe the male himself wasn't ready. Even though he was a proven breeder with Aussie, maybe he wasn't ready to breed for me. Maybe he just didn't want to do the deed that year. Also substrate. Another male that I had, I wasn't using coconut bedding at the time. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I got this male from a breeder who was using a substrate. He was using a type of bedding. So I put some bedding in with that female, and then I put the male in. And sure enough, he locked. So again, bedding, compatibility, the times of the year. For us here in the UK, we always talk about putting snakes or breeding snakes when there's a storm coming in, when we've got low pressure, all that helps. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration when breeding these animals. We're constantly learning. We can never guarantee. I could sell you 2 amazing snakes, MJ. I can't guarantee that they will go on and breed and produce for you. I can only guide you and sort of say, hopefully they will, be awesome breeders for you. So there's a lot of learning curves.
Yeah, man. And then that's like another thing people need to realize, that, there's no guarantee in breeding anything, period. Like, you can only hope it goes the direction you want it to go. But, a lot of people who think they could financially come in this game and just fucking, make money and really just do this full time. It's like, dude, I don't like, it's really not that practical. You know what I mean? Depending on how hard you come in this too, it's like, you can't just breed snakes and fucking become rich. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you need to have, there's so many different fucking levels and so many different things you need to have to come and play before that even all happens. But also things like, there's no even guaranteed in anything when you're keeping animals. It's just, I don't know. My biggest thing is keeping these animals alive. I want these animals thriving. I want these animals eating, shedding. When they look happy and everything's going well, then fucking, it's on, And the thing with ball pythons, you don't have to wait as long as like a green tree or an emerald and stuff like that. That's more time, that's like, I don't breed anything as far as my arboreals that's not over 5 years of age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's at least 5 years of age or up. Cool thing with ball pythons, you could get a female ready in 3 years, if it's, everything's going right. And that's not something you want to rush either. You don't want to rush a female to be ready in 3 years. I'm just saying, if this animal's happy and everything's going well, it could happen. The animal could be breedable in 3 years. And things can go the right direction, but you got to, I don't know, just like you said,
I think the mentality when you're doing this hobby is, whether you're looking at it as a financial gain or whether you want to do it because you're interested in snakes, or whether you want to breed snakes, is don't have such high expectations. Don't set your goals so high that when you don't hit them, you'll come crashing down and you get burnt out. You can make money when breeding snakes. So let's say you have a clutch of 8 eggs and you go, I want £100 per baby or $100 per baby. So that's $800 in that clutch.
Yeah.
That's a good mentality, I suppose, to think about it. But what happens if those babies don't all make it out the eggs, or only half of that clutch is worth $100 or worth $1,000 each, depending on what you're breeding? I think the way to go about this hobby or industry, or getting into, if you're getting into this, is to aim to sustain your own collection.
Yeah.
So in other words, for me, every year I hope I produce for my own projects, and the offspring that I don't need can go back into reinvesting into my projects and sustain with the food, the lighting, the heating, everything else, sustain my collection. Anything else outside of that is a bonus.
Right.
So you've got to don't set your goals too high. Just grow into the hobby. Don't go into the hobby, or grow into business. Don't go into business. That's something Mark Mendek taught me years ago.
And having fun is super key too, man. Make this shit fun for yourself. You don't
Listen.
Go ahead.
This clutch I've just cut last night, MJ. I was trying to film it, and at the same time, I was trying not to act like a crazy, girl running around the room being in hysterics. How awesome they look! The fun is still there. Trust me, the fun will never go away.
Fire inside, and that's what it's all about, man. Like, I want to be in this hobby years down the road, wanting to fucking run around my snake trap fucking screaming like a girl because how excited I am, man. I mean, it's just, dude, that's the journey. I mean, everything. Okay, let me slow down. So the journey is the reward, right? Everything that once you get the clutch and everything goes your way, finally, you're going to look back at everything you did to wait for that time, that moment. And you're going to appreciate it so much, man, because you put in your time. You know how people say put in your time? This is a hobby where if you put in your time, dude, the fucking reward is just, I mean, it could go through the roof. Listen, it's good that Gavin mentioned that you don't look at a clutch that's not even hatched and say, oh, there's about this much money in that clutch. You could do that, but then you also need to fucking be on the realistic side that some of that shit might not hatch out. Okay, that's that you should be thinking more about that than how much money is this clutch going to give you. Like, listen, dude, I fucking sometimes get super excited, you know what I mean? Like, I got a chondro clutch in there, and so much in my head's thinking like, oh, they're not gonna hatch. But then I also get high sometimes, and I get super excited because I think, wow, what if I fucking hatch some yellow fucking neonate that's like so like this and that, and like that's the excitement I like to keep. But then I also have the whole reality of what it really is. And dude, that's what it really, really is. You could get something that gets you pumped up, but don't forget about what it really could be as well. I mean, you got to be realistic yourself at the end of the day. You have to.
Yeah, try and keep yourself on a level. Try and keep yourself.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong in getting excited and all that. And I get excited every time I open up a drawer and I see a clutch of eggs. I think,
for sure,
can't wait for this to hatch. I'm already, thinking what's coming out or what could come out, the possibilities. But then, what I don't want to do is what I know, if I don't keep myself grounded, if something was to happen, how much of a down, you've hyped it up so much that you've kind of set yourself up to fall. And it's very difficult. And sometimes, like I said, having fun in this hobby or this industry, takes away a lot of the BS and the shit that comes with it. You've got to do it for you. You've got to do it for you. Simple. I can tell you more ways and easier ways of making money. If you want to get rich, I can share you some get rich quick tips. But breeding snakes isn't a get rich quick tip for sure. Patience, diligence, and
Let's I want to touch on this because we're drama free. Come on, no drama, right? But come on, Gavin, let's be real. There was drama. There's been drama, right? Fucking people talking or people like doubting you. You did put out a video at one point that got me pumped up. I think it was somebody in the UK though, but you put out a video to make it clear to somebody. God, I forgot what it was, man. You remember what it was? But it was one of the worst videos you've ever done like that, and I was like, whoa, fuck. Somebody pressed Gavin's fucking buttons, and I just can't remember. I mean, it was probably a year ago. Can we just touch on that real quick?
Yeah, so I'll go over the viewers and grab a drink and sit back, and I'll try and condense this all down. So I'm one of these people where I will never tell people what to do. You're your own person. You do whatever you want, provided you're not hurting anyone, and you're sensible, and you're not putting anyway. Obviously, all this drama over the spider gene being neurological issues, etc., etc. Now, the spider gene is the one at the forefront of the neurological issues because it's the first one that had the neurological issues. We do know, obviously, champagne, hidden gene woma, spot nose, other mutations can have neurological issues. So anyway, in the UK, there was with the IHS that we're a member or associated with, they were talking about banning the sale of the spider gene at the shows.
Wow. Yeah.
And this caused a lot of issues within the UK. You got a lot of people come out of the woodwork that were talking about, you shouldn't breed ball pythons with genetic defects and neurological issues. You shouldn't breed spider. Well, all the spiders that I have in my collection do not suffer with a neurological issue. They have not produced babies with a neurological issue. If they were to, and if that was to happen, then I would not sell that baby, and I would keep that baby for myself. And it is what it is.
Right.
So one of a UK well-known breeder, who I kind of looked up to, he was quite big within the UK, started attacking me on a personal level because I put a video out basically saying, if you want to breed spider, provided you do it correctly and safely, etc., then it's up to you. There's a lot of other issues at the shows that need to be addressed, let alone whether or not someone's bringing a ball python with a neurological issue. Yes, that needs to be addressed. But what about all the snakes that are being sold with mites? What about all the snakes that are being sold that have just been hatched? What about all the breeders that have just been into Europe, brought a load of snakes, come into the UK, and then started flipping them? And they know nothing about the snake.
Yep.
So they haven't fed it. They've just got it, and started to flip it. So there's a lot of other issues. So my video was basically aimed at, having a bit of a rant and just saying that, there's other issues we need to address.
Right.
This so-called breeder, knowing that I wasn't on Facebook, started to slate me on Facebook in his little group that he thought I wouldn't hear about because he's got his own little page and his own little bubble.
Yep.
And the minute he did that, a lot of people who were in his bubble didn't agree with what he said, but were kind of too scared to stand up to him because he kind of acts like a bit of a bully. So sure enough, they sent me the screenshots, and that was that. I was like, wow, I've done nothing to you. I've just aired my opinion on my own channel. Right. If you didn't agree with me, fair enough, you don't agree with me. Send me a personal message. Don't slate me on a platform that, one, I'm not on, and two, it's in public. Talk to me man to man. Yeah. So this person never did this, and all he did was list a load of points. So my next video about that was called Answering Questions from a Bully or from a Coward, one of those two.
Yeah.
And I just literally answered all of his, I had it all written down, and I answered all of his questions or his phrases that he was putting out, and I answered them all. Not once did I name him, not once. And then again, he did the same thing. He then made another post on his little Facebook group that he thought that I wouldn't see, hiding behind his little computer. And then, posted something else, and then they sent me the screenshot. Yeah. So I then, obviously, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not going to go on Facebook. Right. He knew I was on YouTube. He's got access to that. And so I posted another response. After that one, he then posted something else saying that he's not going to continue with this conversation because for whatever reasons, he was a bigger person or whatever. And that was the long and short of it. And my thing is, if I've got a problem with someone, MJ, if I don't agree with what you do, I'm not going to post it on social media where you can't see or where I think you can't see. I'm going to hit you a message up and I'm going to go, MJ, I don't agree with that. That's not where I'm at. I'm not going to fall out with you. I'm not going to name you or shame you, let's say. And this so-called person classes himself as a guru, and those are his words, not mine, not anyone else's. He classes himself as a guru, and the word and the meaning, or one of the meanings of guru, is to actually enlighten and help and wise people, make people wiser and help people. And recently, I think it was just before Christmas, he had another attack at me again. And he's got this thing with me. I don't understand why, but it all started when he named me and he just went at me full hammer and tongue. So
and then he called you Gab, and you're like, listen, my friends call me Gab. You don't fucking call me Gab.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It was if you want to talk to me, Mr. Balls to you. Don't call me Gav. You don't know me. You don't know me.
And to touch real quick, the fucking balls to you isn't a ball for ball pythons, just so you guys know, right? That name was established for what?
Yeah, so that was me sort of giving the two fingers up to people, going balls to you. I'll learn myself. When people wouldn't help me,
dude,
because I weren't spending money, it was like, well, okay, balls to you. I'll learn it myself, and then I will help people. So it kind of fell hand in hand, ball pythons and balls to you sort of just worked really well. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm one of these people, MJ, where I'm old school. Where if you got a problem with me, you talk it, whatever. We may not agree, we may not see eye to eye, but we'll agree to disagree. You are you. I respect you for who you are and what you've done. And certainly I had a lot of respect for this breeder for what he'd done within the UK and how far he came.
Yeah.
And whatever. But for him to go straight away and attack me on the attack, I didn't like it. I didn't deserve it. And what really got me was not only was I sent a screenshot of what he put to me, but also this person or people had also made it very clear that he does this on a regular basis. He belittles people, and when people ask for help, he sort of shoots them down.
Yeah.
And that for me is just, and I've said this before. I put a post on my Instagram saying that basically, if you don't want to be a part of a group, be you. Don't be a part of that group just because. Just be you. Don't be
you, man.
I tell you now, I'm one of these people where people see me and they think I'm this nice person, and I am a genuinely nice person. Mm-hmm. But it takes a lot. It took a lot to stop me from going down to his house and dragging him through his letterbox.
Fuck, you don't want to be having off, man.
That he rubbed me up that far, and certainly, I felt sorry for the people that follow him on his Facebook page and little group, because
he's spreading
he's very negative, and he's constantly posting negative stuff and bitching about stuff, and I'm like, dude, you're alive, you're healthy.
That shit gets old so
quick. Look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's like, what are you even bitching about, man? Like, don't you have other things to really worry about and concentrate on? That's why it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you obviously don't have enough going on in your own life to be bitching about other people. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, and it was unfortunate that his wife left him for whatever reasons, and I felt a little bit.
That's heavy
for him. Yeah, I felt a little bit for him, just a little bit, for a short second. And then I was like, well, if that's the way he is online, then God knows what he's like in real life. But
God knows what he's putting his wife through.
Do you know what, MJ? There's no need to go through life. There's no need. There's no need for it at the end of the day. We've all got our own opinions. Life's too short. Yeah.
Too short, man. You don't want to leave this earth thinking like, wow, I spent so much energy thinking of stuff that didn't matter. No, man. I think about it because I was king of that shit. I used to especially when I first came to the hobby, I had a big mouth. So many things pissed me off and I wanted to share it. And it just kind of it sunk in. Like, nobody even told me either. I sunk into myself like, yo, what you're doing is fucking old. Like, it doesn't even, you got too much shit to worry about. There's so much other cooler shit that you could be posting and worry about versus whatever fucking idiot. And there's a lot of fucking idiots out there who are just doing the shit that they want to do. A lot of times people are doing it just to get it rises out of people. They love pissing people off. Like, that's
just get that reaction. And there's one thing. There's one thing we can learn from a lot of things, and life is too short, and you've got to look at your I may not agree with with certain people, but I wish them the best of luck. Good luck. We may not see eye to eye, but good luck. I wish you all the best, because at the end of the day, life is too short.
Yeah, same here, man.
It's simple.
You've
just got to.
I wish a lot of people big wins because, you know, someone else's win isn't your loss. You know what I mean? Just because somebody's winning and they're killing it, that doesn't mean it's affecting what you have to do. It doesn't affect your projects or your goals.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah. I mean,
everybody win.
This is it. This hobby or this industry, whatever you want to call it, is bigger than all of us. You know, it's bigger than. And if it wasn't for the snakes that we breed, we wouldn't be where we are today. So we've got to stay humble, you know, and that is what it is. But never think you're better than anyone else. And if you've got an issue with someone, then certainly say it to their face, or keep your mouth shut and just don't say it. You know?
Yep. And if you're at a point where you just, you know, the person who is talking shit, or if there's groups of people talking shit about you and they don't want to hear anything what you have to say, then that's when you have to get the power to fucking ignore it. You know what I mean? I'm saying if you have the power to ignore shit and just keep it moving, woof, man, you're gonna be a happy person.
Yeah, I mean,
my biggest things is I fucking, you know, I almost wait for a motherfucker to talk shit about me, and then, you know, like, and that's, you know, it's gonna happen. It's starting to happen. Ever since I started doing this podcast, motherfuckers are talking shit now, and now I look at it like, hey, they're talking. Like, I'm stoked that they're talking. It's not more like, let me go after them. I'm cool. I'll let people say what they want to say. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, sometimes you got to think of it a bit like WWE wrestling, or WWF, whatever you want to call it. It's trash talk, but it's people talking, and they're talking about you. And you know, the one thing the one thing I say to everyone is at the end of the day, it is what it is. You know, just do you, concentrate on you. If people are going to talk shit, they're going to talk shit. At least they're mentioning your name. You know, at least they're wasting their time talking about you, whether it be good or bad. You know, but it's the same when people put a dislike on a video. You know, I actually thank people for putting a dislike or thumbs down on my YouTube video, because they've taken time to watch my video and put a thumbs down. Thanks for the view.
Exactly. And and it's crazy. It's like, you know, it's if motherfuckers came correctly at their comments instead of just commenting from a fake account and try to talk shit. Like, if there is an issue you have with either a vlog, this podcast, or something, like, why don't you properly, like a fucking, like somebody who's educated, you know, actually say what the true issue is and fucking say what your problem is, versus just like either bashing them or trying to bring you down with something, and then we can't even respond to you anyways, because you'll never log back into that fake account ever again. And it just like never fucking goes anywhere. Like, what a miserable person to be, to not want to find a solution to what your problem is. Does that make sense? Fuck.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, you know, sometimes you can waste too much energy on certain people,
on worthless people.
Or you know, the way I always see, like I said, you know, this person that we were talking about, I wish him all the best. I wish him, you know, no. Actually, I'm lying. I'd put him through his letterbox any day.
I want to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody.
Yeah. No, he's one person I won't apologize to. Unfortunately, he's took the olive. You know, I gave him the olive branch and he took it and broke it. So no, I don't care about him at all. But you know, people in this industry, we have had a falling out, or we have had a disagreement, but we've ended the conversation with, look, I wish you all the best. Good luck moving forward. You know. And that's just being the bigger person. I do want to see people succeed. I do want to see people happy. You know, I don't want to see people fail. Before we wrap things up real quick, I want to give a shout out to Apex Mutations. He's been really, really, like, you know, active in the comments. Yeah, sure.
I want to ask you his last comment that he just asked. And he wants to know, you know, as far as your YouTube setup and your lighting and all that, how that's set up. You know, can you just walk us through your steps as far as like what you have now, like what's your setup like when you YouTube and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is the thing. I do everything myself, whether it be the camera work, the editing, you know, the ideas of the video. I don't have someone behind the camera, you know, telling me, you know, what to do, what not to do. It's all trial and error, and I like to learn by my mistakes and make every video better, if you like. With the lighting and stuff, I just use real good lighting in the HQ, which is LEDs. The camera I use is a Canon. I try not to overcomplicate things with other light sources coming in here and there. So for me, good lighting is key, which is why I use good LED lights. And I just try and be as the one thing I learned very quickly is if the content is only 5 minutes long, don't make it 10 minutes long. Yeah, because there's only 5 minutes of it being worth spoken about.
Yep.
If you need half an hour to explain a gene or how something works, then don't fit it into 5 minutes. Make it half an hour.
Yep.
So that's one thing I learned, that and don't just do videos for the sake of putting out content. Make it something you want to talk about, something you want to get out there. Fortunately, I want to talk about snakes all day, every day. So that makes it pretty easy for me. Make it relevant to what you're discussing, share information, help people. So that's basically how I base my videos. If I want to show a project, I want to show it. I don't want to just hold it up to the camera and go, look, this is that snake.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get the setup, but once you've got it, with the camera looking down over the snake and you've got the snake in front of the camera, people are going to engage with that a lot better, because instead of you holding it up and going, oh, look, it's very difficult to show a snake off. Whereas if you're filming from above and you're showing it, the snake there, it's going to make for an interesting video. So hopefully that answers, it's a very multiple answer question, but hopefully that does answer some of your questions, Apex.
Yeah, man, good. Some serious tips right there. And I feel like making things the way you want it, meaning don't chase someone else's YouTube channel dream. Like, make sure you're making videos the way you should be making them. Like, it's obviously good to get tips, like he said, having the camera above, like that's awesome. But man, do things, switch it up, make music that's for you and stuff. I just like I said, my biggest setback for watching new YouTube channels is it's so repetitive, man. It's like watching it's like watching somebody else's channel I just watched, or watching a rip-off version of Miguel's channel or something. And it's just like, or even Barchek's, and like Gavin has his style. You watch Gavin's, it's nobody else's YouTube channel. It's Gavin's YouTube channel. And that's why, I'm just saying, get more creative. You could get creative with this shit. You really can. And you just you don't have to really, you could get ideas from everyone, but you don't have to do what they do, because you got to stand out. It's hard to get subs nowadays, man.
That's it. Some of my ideas come from people not in the reptile industry, watching other people's, videos and stuff. And you know what? I could make up a channel and, have 1 million subscribers, playing with kids' toys and talking stupidly and unboxing things and doing stupid shit, or gaming, and have hundreds of millions of subscribers and earn loads of money. But for me, the Balls to You channel isn't what that's about. Right. I love subscription. Don't get me wrong. Subscribers, the guys that support the channel, absolutely amazing. And that's why I do it, to help people. But if it was all about the revenue, that's the other thing. A lot of people get hooked up on how many followers and subscribers they get. Don't get hooked up on that.
You never go anywhere.
They'll come with time, Yeah.
But
don't buy followers. Don't buy none of that BS. Yeah,
for real.
Grow your channel.
You're already in a dead run if you fucking buy any followers, you buy any subscribers.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, you're faking.
Trust me, it will be worth the time and effort that you put in. I've just hit 20,000 followers on Instagram. Congrats. And that blows my mind.
Well deserved.
That's took me years to do. But just take your time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the subscribers. Don't worry about being monetized. For what it's worth, the money isn't. Unless you're getting millions of views on a video. Just don't use that as your drive to do a YouTube channel. Just do you.
I know at some point it's going to be pretty idiotic for me to keep doing copyright shit. But listen, I fucking love doing what I do. This is my show. So I play the music I want to play, even though YouTube's like, nope, sorry, fucking, that's somebody else's. And I don't care. Don't get me wrong. Once I get to that fucking level, I'll probably mix my own shit and something like that. But, you know, this is so much fun, man. I've had so much fun having you on right now, man. We're 2 hours in. So, I mean, this has been an honor, Gavin. You're somebody, like I said, from the beginning days to where I only had one ball python. I was watching Gavin's fucking videos and knowing what I wanted, like the future was so mentally implanted because of the shit I was watching on Gavin's YouTube channel. So this is an honor, man. You're the fucking man, Gavin. That's all I gotta say.
I'd just like to say thanks for having me on, MJ. It's been absolutely awesome. And I'm one of these people where, you know, I love every bit of support that anyone gives me. And I appreciate your time having me on here. And I appreciate everyone who's commented and come on and joined us on. And, you know, it means the world to me. It really does, mate. I'm not just saying that. It really does. I appreciate everything.
Huge, man. And guys, remember, think again. Gavin's advice all comes from his own experience. This guy came from a background where people wouldn't give him advice. So his goal is to help all of us out, man. Like, he wants us all to win. He's not here to steer any of us wrong. So I hope you guys took a lot from this interview, because I'm telling you right now, man, everything I followed from Gavin has worked for me. And yeah, man, like I said, I couldn't appreciate you enough, Gavin. I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks, MJ.
Have a wonderful night, man. We'll be following you. I'll be, you know, be looking forward to see what's coming out of those eggs, man. But just keep doing you, Gavin, and we'll talk soon, bro.
Cool. Take it easy, MJ, and take care to everyone who came into the chat today. Great.
Yeah, man. Big ups to Gavin.
Take care, guys.
See you later, bro. All right.
See you.
Whew, that was sick, man. Gavin, balls to you. Really, really fucking awesome guy, man. Upfront about everything. He's just my kind of guy, dude. Professional as fuck too, so you can't go wrong with that. So thanks again, Gavin. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody who tuned in this morning, man. I got a quick question. How many of you guys out there think I should be doing Saturday morning podcasts? So I'll do my Thursday nights, right? Typical Thursday nights. But then how do you guys feel about doing Saturday morning podcasts? Raise your hand if you think I should be doing that. Whoa. Okay. Holy shit. Whoa, look at all these hands being raised. Oh, my Lord. I'm going to wait. Whoa, they keep coming up. All right, slow down. A lot of hands being raised. Okay, raise your hand if you think this is the coolest single-person podcast out in the reptile hobby right now. Raise your hand. Oh, shit. Here they come again. Okay. These hands keep coming. It's nuts. The comments are going nuts right now. Everyone's going nuts right now. All right, we got that. Last questions. How many of you guys think Unfiltered Reptiles podcast is the coolest multi-person podcast out in the reptile hobby right now? Raise your hands. It's going nuts again. You guys are amazing. Shout out to all the supporters out there. Fuck, man. This was awesome. So yeah, that being said, we're going to fucking do Saturday morning podcasts now. Woo! I like this. This was great. So we'll be tuning in Thursday nights, and then we'll be tuning in Saturday mornings for Trap Talk sessions. Be excited because, dude, I got a list of people who I'm bringing on. Not only are we booked throughout the year for Unfiltered, but, dude, we are close to being booked throughout the year for Trap Talk sessions, man. And I'm telling you, bro, we got some bangers coming. If you guys thought it's been good, it's going to get a lot better. I'll tell you that much. So appreciate everybody who tuned in. Like I said, you guys are amazing. All the supporters are amazing. Make sure you guys tuned in for next week's Trap Talk session on Thursday. We'll have a new trap salute of the week that I'm excited to talk about. And yeah, man, make sure you give us a follow on Instagram. And then make sure, please, if you don't mind, hold on, let me make sure you guys go subscribe to the Unfiltered Reptiles podcast. Where the hell is it? Oh, there it is. All right. Unfiltered Reptiles podcast, guys. Link in the description below. Go follow that podcast, man. It's no joke. We have somebody we're going to drop heavy tomorrow morning. And then we have crazy guests we're bringing on. We're going to have like back-to-back, guests that we've had on that we're going to be bringing on both at the same time, stuff like that. So check that out. Make sure you follow the Snake Trap Sessions on Instagram. So, and then obviously MJ Exotics Cartel, man, you guys got to go follow that page. As soon as I get some clutches out and things are rolling, you know, fingers crossed, I'll be displaying animals for sale on that page. So stand by. Shout out to the fucking coolest sponsor out right now, Cold Blooded Cafe. You know, you guys know what to do if you want the freshest and bestest frozen thawed rodents that you could refreeze at least twice. I'm letting you guys know that right now. You can refreeze a frozen thawed animal at least twice. If you get it from Cold Blooded Cafe, it's not going to smell. This is coming from personal experience. And like I said, it's the safest route to go. If you have a collection smaller than 20 or whatnot, don't risk your animals getting bit, man. Go with the fucking frozen thawed, man. And if you're going to get the frozen thawed, it's going to be at Cold Blooded Cafe. And then don't forget, when it comes to hatching those eggs, you got to get that sim box. So shout out to John over at Simbox Sim Containers, man. I'll put the website in the description below to get your guys yourself a sim container, man. But yeah, man, you guys are great, man. Shout out to everybody who rolled through in the comments. The support, I love it, man. You guys are awesome. So happy Memorial Day weekend. You guys enjoy your fucking weekend, man. I'm going to go kick it with my mom. I miss my mom. So I'm going to go drive up and see her, spend some time with my mom and my wife and do some family stuff, man. Go hit some jet skis and all that other stuff. So you guys are awesome. Tune in next week.